Hello, and welcome to Survival of the Thickest, the only show in the world who can be less consistent, despite the fact that we have more time on our hands.
That's very true. I was going to say, I was thinking on the way here, I was like, how have we managed to commit less time to this while we're not doing our degrees?
You know, I think it's because when we're doing our degrees, we have to actively commit time to it.
Yeah.
Whereas when we're at home doing not a lot,
yeah,
I think we're under the impression that it will happen at some point.
Yeah,
but if you don't,
which it kind of has.
I mean, it has now.
Well,
but you have to
5 weeks later.
you have to push it through.
That is true.
The one thing I probably can say, hopefully, is that because we have a lot of time on our hands, the fact that we're recording it now, it should get released pretty soon after.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm thinking tomorrow.
That's a pretty good turnover.
Yeah, I'm hoping the library won't mind though, because I've still got no internet, so I will have to go to the library to upload.
No, just use your phone data like you have been doing.
Actually, I'll tell you what. The lady at EE gave me 10 gigabytes for free this afternoon of phone data.
Why is that?
Because I've been using it for the house. You know, computer.
Oh, did you let her know?
Yeah, so I said, but don't worry, I've been hotspotting on my phone. She was like, we'll have an extra 10 gig for free, and I was like, not going to say no to that.
Well, I'm on EE also, so maybe I could just...
Oh dear, our Wi-Fi's gone down. Nudge.
Well, either that, because they could check that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've actually been going over to my friend's house, and his internet is down, and I've been propping him up for weeks now.
Oh dear. So, anyway, why have we been so busy then?
Well, see, that's the thing. We opened saying, we haven't been busy at all, when actually, if we're honest, we have been pretty busy.
With your work, it's kind of, I don't know, you get back at 4, and it's like you've done
I'm exhausted now.
Yeah,
I'm proper exhausted.
Exactly, I know, it's tiring, isn't it? Well, who wants to go first then? I mean... mine was earlier on, I think, really, than yours kind of
if you want to do it chronologically.
Yeah, okay.
Then, to be fair, I think yours... as I will probably explain, yours has probably got a bit more of a broad appeal.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so from the 20th to the 28th of June, I spent 8 days.
What day is it now?
It's
the
now
19th
the 19th of July.
So this is hot off the press. This is a red hot take on Reuben's little trip from a month ago.
I spent I spent 8 days in Bangor with the university on a field trip. There you go. So yeah, essentially what it was a tour of the Isle of Anglesey. Essentially.
Okay.
So we had, for the first kind of 5 days, a different habitat every day, and then for day 6 and 7, we picked kind of one of those habitats, or one bit about those habitats, to do a small project on, which is then going to be a written assessed piece of work.
And you chose that individually, or like in small groups?
You individually, but then you worked in the groups that you all chose the same area, if you know what I mean. So
okay.
It's kind of 5 different topics. So I'll talk about my one that I liked, and then you worked in that group for your project, but then you go away and write your report on your.
Okay, well, first, what were the all of the habitats? Then you can get into the ones that you did.
So the kind of theme of the week was life at the extremes. Okay, now you
in Bangor.
Yeah, now you see, look, I made the same comments, but it was kind of reasonably well justified to me that it's not really extreme for us, but it might be extreme for the organisms that we're studying. So, for example, I don't know, something, a barnacle that sticks onto a rock on the edge of the shore. Not that, obviously, we can stand there, we'll get bashed by the waves,
but
not
for
a
them,
problem.
I guess it's an edge species.
It's going to get...
It's on land, but it's receiving all the grief from the sea, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's got, it's got to be, like, talking about barnacle water tolerance, I imagine. But it has to be.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So we had a cliff top, kind of a maritime cliff top. So that's got, I believe, like the kind of...
sort of birds, like puffins.
Yeah, that is true. Exactly. We went to see. I can't remember the name of the place. It's all in Welsh. It's complicated. But the puffin observatory point were run by the RSPB. So that was quite good. But no, we were looking at heaths and heather and stuff like that. Then we went to a Paris Mountain, which was a disused copper mine. Then we did a Sheltered Shore. That was another one. So you've kind of got the wave. That's kind of the example of the barnacles and that kind of thing. The crabs, that kind of stuff that you'd expect to find around there. And the salt flats, not salt flats, but like the marshes. That was the other one.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Oh, and
so like boggy type.
Yeah, that and sand dunes. That's a good one.
That's a cracker.
Yeah, sand dunes.
That's another.
Forgot
Like
that
we spoke the other week about how like there's always a good A-level example for everything that crops up.
Yeah.
Peppered moths was the last one, but now you're bringing in sand dunes
as well.
Succession at its
It
finest.
It really was. So yeah, they were the different habitats. We basically it worked. It was quite well structured. It was lecture, go to the thing, get some data, analyze the data, next topic. Like, do you know what I mean?
All in a day.
Yeah, it might not have been in the day. It might have been spread out, kind of, Tuesday night we have the lecture and then we go on Wednesday morning. But yeah, that's how it worked. Kind of nice 3 steps. And then, as I said, at the end we had to pick one that was of our interest. There was 5 different options. You had 2 of them. I think 2 of them were lab based. Oh, sorry, no, there's 4 options. 2 of them were lab based. 2 of them were in the field.
In the field.
And I'm going to be honest. So the 2 field ones were the kind of rocky shore and the Paris Mountain, which was the copper mine. It's not actually a mountain, by the way, but I'll get onto that. And then the 2 lab ones, one was about seaweed, and I honestly can't remember what the other one was about, because I didn't pick that one, so there you go. So I went for Paris Mountain on several accounts. Firstly, it finished at 6 o'clock, so I didn't have a late one.
Oh, this was tactical. Oh,
Whereas
for a second I thought you were going to do it for the love of the habitat.
No. There's several factors. So it finished at 6, where the other lab one finished at 8:30. The other field one finished at 8:30. And I was like, well, I haven't come all the way here to just go into a lab, so I want to go into the field, but I'll go for the nicer field option. In my opinion.
Fair enough. Well, because as soon as you said that, I was like, right, well, what would a lab entail? Probably someone's already gone and got samples of stuff for you, and you're just like, it's,
I think the seaweed one was about, like,
it contains
and
this
stuff,
much chloroform or this much. I can't now remember the name of osmoprotectants. There, various osmoprotectant molecules that prevent drought.
Also, I felt that Paris was the most extreme of the extreme environments we've been in, because obviously having been there earlier in the week, we had to pick one to go back again to. If that makes any sense.
Right.
So having been there earlier, we had a little tour, and I was like, I wanted to learn a little bit more about the place. I didn't really feel like we got to know what was going on as much as we should have done. So I was like, I'll go back there. And also, David Hulse was the lecturer, or guy that was running that particular one, and he's really good. Like, when you got those lecturers that are just really good.
Oh yeah,
you're like, I could listen to him all day and I'd be interested. So I was like, well, it ticks all the boxes. So I was like, I'll go with Paris.
Was that a popular choice, do you think?
It was a kind of first come first serve thing, and I think it was probably one of the first or the second to get filled up. So
okay, fair enough.
Obviously everyone had to pick one, so if you didn't get the one you wanted, you have to go to another option. But I was surprised actually. The lab ones filled up before the field ones.
That's the thing. If you're forced to go on a field course, Now my uni doesn't do it, but I can't imagine that's hugely popular with a lot of people because of the number of people that stick their eggs in the biochem field, and they're like, I want to work in the sciences. I want to be a lab technician, and some people know that straight away.
Yeah.
Whereas that was certainly neither you or I's field.
Yeah. No, I can't lie. At the start of the week, everyone was a bit kind of grumpy. Like, why are we here? This is going to be the most boring 8 days. Especially when I found out that Bangor is actually lower rated in the biology and overall tables than Kiel. So I was like, all I'm doing is travelling to a worse university for a week. Like, what have I actually gained? But anyway.
But we're not elitist at all about universities.
So anyway, I chose Paris, and essentially, like I said, it's a copper mine. I think it was decommissioned, I believe, kind of end of the 1800s, so just going on into the 19th.
Cool, yeah.
End of the 19th century, there we go. And there are a scattering of kind of like water pools, and they kind of vary in pH. So we were looking at the...
Does that depend on how deep in the mine they were? Or just quite...
I will add, when I say
variation?
mine, like, I initially was also expecting, you know, a railway track and wooden beams, you know, like Indiana Jones style. But it was more just like a giant pit, essentially. Massive, great big hole in the ground.
Sure, okay.
But you could have a nice wander around, so it was huge, like huge place.
Yeah.
So yeah, we didn't actually get to the bottom of why some pools were more acidic than others. We were more looking at what the acidity effect has on the species that live there.
No, fair enough. That is more interesting to us, I would assume, because
Yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty of answers to the question, like, you know, that sort of rock pool. It's fed in by a certain amount of dissolved rock that's over there, and I imagine those questions
Geographers
don't have as much. The answer is a bit more mundane to us when really we want to know how does that actually have an impact.
Yeah. So we spent kind of, like I said, go to the lab, get the data, and then come back maybe the next day or later on and analyse it. So let's go to the field, get the data, and then come back to the lab. So when we were at the field, I think we went to about 9 or so different spots. We got pH, temperature, oxygen concentration, that kind of thing. A brief description of the area, perhaps that might give some more information. Took all the water samples back, and then we also, while we were out there, we collected some water boatmen.
Yeah.
And Dave had kindly provided us some Daphnia as well to test.
Yeah.
So then the following day, we spent the morning essentially killing them.
Yeah, just seeing what they could handle.
So what can you take? pH 2 in you get, you know, like that kind of thing. I don't think it was quite that bad.
Essentially, that water boatman has been eaten by a human, and you're like,
okay, I don't think it was quite as bad.
Handle those acids.
But I tell you what, it was quite. I felt a bit bad on one hand, but the water boatmen seemed to really like take it like a champ. Like they did not really die. Like they were.
They took forever to kill.
They did. They pretty much did, yeah. So and then we just looked at the data. I mean, it's not hard to work out that the more acidic an area is, probably the quicker it would kill the Daphnia. That kind of makes sense, you know. So, and then we had to do a little presentation on it to everyone else, and everyone else did their presentations to us about the other things. So, I felt that Paris was probably the most interesting one, so I'm glad I chose that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've just got to write 2,000 words on it before October.
What, you still have to do that?
Yeah.
I was under the impression that was sort of, you go and you get it done.
Well, we did an exam, an open book exam, but that was a good exam. It was quite nice to have...
As far as I know, that's how it works for the Manchester guys.
Okay.
If you want to do a field course, because there are a few in first year.
Yeah.
But like you just go, you do your exam while you're out there or as soon as you get back, and that's it. That's your.
And I liked the exam on several fronts. It was the first time I think really ever I've actually done an open book exam, sort of where you take your notes in. And we were given 7 like species, and we had to identify them from our notes. And what I liked about that is that realistically, when you're a biologist and you're doing
I know
biology,
what you're gonna say. Yeah,
you don't not have your notes with you. You don't not have books. It's
funny.
Nice.
Funny you should say that, because today I was out in the field with, I'll explain all that later.
Yeah.
I was measuring wheat all day, but I saw this discoloration on one of the wheat ears,
right.
And I was like, oh, that's really, really cool and interesting. It was like black in certain bits, but it was like a patch of black. And I was like to I don't know my colleague, but senior colleague.
Yeah. Supervisor, maybe.
If you want.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, what's that? And he's like, I could guess, or I could just tell you, I don't know without the book.
Yeah.
And it didn't affect what he was doing.
Yeah.
It was just one plant that had a certain disease. But of course, there are so many
diseases,
mostly fungal diseases in the plant world. That it's just not important on the day, unless you're looking at a particular disease.
Yeah.
It's not important that you know exactly what that is and what's caused it.
It was just nice to go with the ethos of, what is it, like, fail to prepare to fail kind of thing, like that kind of...
Yeah, it's that classic, in GCSE maths, they're like, you've got your calculator exam and your non-calculator exam, and I'm like, I will always have a calculator.
Yeah,
this is 2011, and I've got a calculator on my phone at all times on my person.
Yeah. So it was a good week, and as I said, like at the start we were all a bit like, at the end, I mean, it was better than what I was expecting. I think that's the important bit.
Well, you've done a part of your degree that's not in an exam
room. I believe we get a slightly easier time next year, so next semester.
You have mentioned,
so that's kind of balances it out. But I would say, like, the staff were great. Like, obviously, I'm presuming they all got paid, but it was still a little bit like, when you go with your teachers on like a PGL trip or like that, and you see them in a whole different light, and then they're actual people. It was a bit like that. Yeah.
The thing is, I've thought about this recently because I'm like, they're actual people, and you realise that, and like, it's almost in a way, quote unquote, a holiday for them.
Yeah.
Of course, they're on the job, they're responsible for certain people, but they're out of the classroom. Obviously, and they want to doss off just as much as we do.
Yeah, they're people that love biology, so why not have a kind of a small biology holiday, essentially?
Yeah.
So no, it was excellent. I will. There was one complaint though. I did fill in a little form at the end. I did put my little complaint. We had to cross these kind of. I guess it's a marsh. I really should remember the name exactly. But we were digging up cockles. You know where like the water comes in, and you get like the big beds of kind of sloppy sand that stretch out for quite a distance. We had to dig up cockles. Okay, now we had to dig up a 50 by 100 centimetre square, probably about the depth of a spade, and then get all the sand out and then count all the cockles. And we were measuring, like, obviously the density of the cockles, depending on how close they were to the shoreline, etc. I had to count 300 cockles in an afternoon. It was the most tedious and boring thing I have ever imagined.
Well, just you wait, because my job is gonna knock your socks off.
That was a very valid point that they make. That was like, I mean, you're gonna have to do tedious things in biology, so get used to it. But I did just kind of think, if what is the objective of measuring 300 cockles? If it's to look at cockles and learn how to age them and how to measure them, then I got that after the first 5 cockles. I was like, right, I get this now. If it was to analyse data of 300 cockles and, manage it correctly, which is obviously quite a difficult task when you're, spreadsheets and graphs and whatever, then I just felt like maybe they could have given us the data rather than us spend 3 hours digging up cockles in an afternoon. Yeah, but there you go. That's my only complaint.
I can attest to the fact that they are preparing you for the biological world at large, which leads me swiftly. No.
Well, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I had a good time. I don't know if anyone ever listening to this is going to have to go on the field course. I would say it will be better than you expect. So
Just dig up them cockles.
And you'll have a good time. So, that was what I've been up to. Kind of, not really a good excuse of
that's
why
what you were up to a month ago.
I have been up to almost a month ago. Yes. So, Cameron, what have you been up to?
Now this is hot stuff. This is what I've been doing today.
Wow.
For the last couple of weeks.
I've
been working at NIAB.
Oh, who are NIAB? I have no idea.
All the cheese. We
We? Is that a we? Is that like, oh, you're already like part of a team?
We're actually
well,
we're actually a
at
really
NIAB,
big.
we like to look at.
We do love that.
Yeah.
We do love that. It's a big sort of biotech trials company in the sort of agricultural industry.
Yeah.
So they will breed strains. They'll dabble in a bit of GM. I'm led to believe, but I'm not involved in any of that. And they just
measure wheat. Lots and lots of wheat.
Well, yeah, it is a and maybe what I didn't quite realise when I applied. And don't get me wrong, any complaints I have, irrelevant. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But when you talk about tedious work, then look no further than what I did today.
So
I was measuring the height of wheat. I had to take the height of the tiller.
Yeah.
And then the height of the whole thing.
Right.
So in those two measurements, you get a sense of how big it is in all, and you get a sense of how big the ear is, like the bit that you're harvesting for, that bit where all the grain is.
Yeah. And
I was doing that from 8:30 till 3:30 today, and it's maddening. It really is, and like it helps hugely when you've got at least I'd say you have to have some interest in the sort of outcome of
what you're doing,
of the research, what it all means.
Yeah.
Because today it was all to do with varying amounts of nitrogen fertilizer.
Okay.
And there were different strains and such like. And if you didn't care to look at the finer details, then you would hate it.
Yeah.
Because it's several hours of saying 67, 79, 48, 59. The best way to enjoy it, because I was doing it with like a partner, is to try and match your numbers. You go for the most
like
average looking, and you're like 67, 79. And then he'll go 67, 75. Oh.
So
no, from my point of view, because I am really interested in plant science, I can go, oh well, it's interesting because that strain with the low nitrogen has got a very small head, but that strain with also low nitrogen is very short, but the head's still
average size.
Okay, and of course, I'm not involved in assessing the data or analysing it in any way.
Yeah.
I'm a data collector.
Yeah.
That's all that I do.
Researcher. Is that not a nicer word for data collector? Kind of.
No, because the researcher implies that you actually have a hand in
Deciding.
any decision making. I literally, honestly,
your decision is: can I make it to the end of the shift alive
without going insane? Absolutely mental.
So no. I mean, look. It sounds like you're gonna get a lot of experience out of this. Like,
I am going to get a big name on my CV and a lovely suntan.
And a lovely suntan. I imagine so.
Yeah. Well, my lineage is up in Scotland, so a tan is unheard of. It's totally alien. We don't even have sun yet. I don't think it's coming out
until
it in
the dictionary. Sun just
the
means
Glasgow
child.
Dictionary, if it exists. Sun's not on there. A tan is only followed by tanning bed. Like, that's the only context.
Yeah. The word tan isn't, but tanning bed is.
Okay.
No, I mean, it does. For all, maybe perhaps your particular what you're doing at the moment isn't the most interesting part. Is there certainly any way that you could, like, continue to stay in touch with them and then work your way up to making those decisions of deciding what's
obviously,
what's
and that's that is a hope. Like, it's a good name, and I've already got sort of my foot in the door.
Exactly.
So we'll see what happens, what I take to. But I think I said this today. Actually, it's not the job that I do that is boring. It's just the day-to-day task that I've got to do.
So is it like one giant lab kind of thing, and then you get up there and they'll tell you what you're doing today?
No, it's more office.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm based in an office, but then they'll be like, okay, now you're going out to the field and you're doing sampling, or you're measuring heights, and it's something that anyone can do. Anyone can hold a ruler up to a piece of wheat, but it takes someone that's interested to not want to
do it.
kill themselves during the process.
Yeah.
And like, I'll be honest as well. Like, there
are
better paid jobs.
Oh, of course.
That I or someone my age can get fairly easily.
Yeah.
But
that's what we talked about.
But I mean, this is almost a long-term investment in a very sort of potential.
Yeah. You're not getting paid particularly well, but you're taking away more than just.
I'm not getting paid badly.
Well, no.
But I'm just saying, like, if I wanted.
No, yeah, you could.
If it was an economic decision, it would be different. But I guess.
But you're taking away more
then,
than money. You're taking away the reference
much
and
more
the
than money.
experience and all the rest of it.
And the opportunity to go back, which is huge for me because it's close enough to home. So I don't have to worry about any of that.
Probably just getting up in the morning was probably the worst bit.
You get used to that. I think this is also my first 8 hours a day weekday job, and I think that's pretty important experience as well as growing up, and I'll be getting myself into a career that's probably like that.
Yeah.
So why not get well into that now?
No,
I can't be doing Saturday afternoon jobs forever.
You can't work in a cafe or whatever. No, that's very true. Very true. Well, I hope that perhaps at another point in the podcast line we can hear something else that you might be doing. Surely you can't just be measuring wheat, doing that precise activity for
no. Well,
the next 6 weeks.
I do a lot of threshing, which is it's a popular British expression. But I am literally sorting the wheat from the chaff.
Nice.
The chaff being all the discard from the sort of wheat
husks.
head.
Is it husks, kind of thing like that?
Let's go with husks.
We'll go with husks.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. Well,
and it's fun. It's funny as well. You said, counting cockles, and I'm like, you should try counting wheat tillers for. No, barley tillers is the worst actually, because when you have to collect that, right? You know the ohms.
Yeah,
the bits that stick out of each.
I think
husk.
so. Yeah.
They get stuck right in your feet.
Yeah.
And they are the spikiest little buggers. Like they just stab your ankles.
I like how passionate this is making you.
They just stab your ankles all day. And if you do it in the morning, they stay there for the whole day. You're walking around going, ow, ow, ow. It is horrible.
All for biology. All for that paycheck.
All for the love of plant science.
There you go. So I think we've kind of roughly tried to justify what we've been up to recently. We'd like to think, again, that maybe we could try and get another one out slightly quicker than 5 weeks, but there you go.
It's getting us. It's literally just like, we should do one today.
Yeah.
And then it's easy as anything to actually get it done. But there you go.
I will tell you something that has happened in the past 5 weeks, though. Do you remember the Larsen Sea Shelf?
Oh, here we go.
It snapped off. It's gone.
Whoa!
I know! I saw it all over my timeline the other day, and I was like... And actually, I saw a lot of comments like, oh, why are we worrying about the future when it's the end of the world already? And I did remember that was what you said as well about global warming, and I was like, it's not exactly global warming.
It's been that long ago.
Has been that long,
I don't remember the
Well, it wasn't global warming that
saying.
caused it. It was just a natural process. Global warming is natural. Yeah, okay. But no, I just thought it was funny how we've got a story that we have covered in the past. We're bringing back up again.
It's actually come back. So
yeah, you never know what might happen. With other stories we've done in the past, so whatever.
Well, let's see if that BO story crops up again.
It turns out it's actually a fungus. What?
Oh dear.
So anyway,
I've had fun today. We've learnt that wheat is incredibly long to count, and water boatmen take incredibly long to die.
I think that's a great place to end. So thank you very much for listening. If this is the first time you've been listening to Survival of the Thickest, be sure to give us a like and subscribe as well. We'd be very, very grateful. So we'll see you next time on Survival of the Thickest.